Is it? Hey!
There it comes.
So welcome to the Libri Labra Book Club. I'm joined today, as usual, by BookTube hubby, John, and Book Club VIP, Tom Brennan. Tom, say hi.
Howdy.
And today we're going to be talking about Scythe by Neal Shusterman. We will kind of give our very initial thoughts, and then we're going to get super spoilery. So if you haven't seen, it's not a movie. It might be eventually. If you haven't read the book, then go away, come back later. But
do come back. This is going to be fun.
Yeah, definitely. So we're going to get like really in depth and really talk about it. So lots of spoilers. Just be aware of that. I feel a little crazy today. So this was your pick.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oops.
Yeah, it was. So
I'm sorry, Tom.
All right.
Well, I thoroughly enjoyed it. So.
But what made you pick it as like one of your selections?
I think it's I'm turning into a bigger fan of Neal Shusterman every time I read something from him. Challenger Deep was kind of what started it, I guess. And I'd like to adventure into more of his books. I will do my best to not bring up anything Thunderhead related because I already consumed that one as well. But it does a good job of answering some of the questions that some people may have about Scythe.
So Kat is with us in the chat for the love of books, and she said, "Read Unwind."
She screamed it.
Yeah. So we do that. It's so good. Yeah, we have that next on our list. I definitely already have the first one. So I don't have the audiobook, though. I'm going to have to get that for you.
No, I'm going to have to get that because you're not allowed to buy books.
I'm not allowed to buy books. So
Oh, yeah.
So what would you say were your initial thoughts in regards to this world that he's created?
Going into Scythe, Scythe is actually kind of what gave me an awareness of how much I actually enjoy dystopian or post-modern. I wouldn't say post-apocalyptic because is it?
Not Scythe, no. But
yeah, because postmodern is kind of my choice of words for this, and it's just an idea of what the future could hold for us and the problems and the things that come with it. And I really do enjoy those types of books now. I don't know why. It's just maybe an idea of looking ahead to the future, possibilities or problematic issues, but. Going into Scythe, I liked the idea behind it and what it was portraying. The idea that we have a new society that death isn't a thing, but in order to control populations, they actually had to make it a thing and choose a specific part of humanity to deliver death. And I like the idea.
I thought it was kind of unique.
It's been done before, but
it has a uniqueness, I think, because when paired with the AI and stuff. But I knew like a little bit about it. I knew like a lot of people were raving about Neal Shusterman, and that was one of his more recent series. I think his newest book is called Dry. But and I knew there was a teenager and apprentice and something. I kind of like it just kind of left my brain though when I started reading this, and I did not expect to be quite as hooked as I was. Like I was gasping out loud at certain parts when I was reading it, and I really enjoyed it. I didn't expect to care about it as much as I did. I think there were kind of like two generations happening because you had the apprentice Scythes, but you also had the actual Scythes. And so I felt like it gave a really well-rounded perspective of the Scythedom.
I agree. The idea that we had and the Scythes that we're dealing with are even after the first Scythes. Scythes?
Scythes.
Okay, so So that really, there's 3 generations, and you'll get an insight onto each one through journal entries, which I really liked about the book, is the journal entries that were put into it, and it gives a little bit more insight to the fact that these sides are supposed to be a little bit more tuned into humanity because nobody else was, because they had an AI taking care of everything.
Right.
And I agree. When you first told me about the book, you're all like, "Oh, it's an apprenticeship, blah blah blah, learning to be new scythes," and I was like, I threw it aside. So I regret doing that now.
Tom, what are your basic initial thoughts?
Well, I had goodwill going into this, having a Challenger Jeep, but there were some things that he does in the story. It's like, oh, come on, really?
I mean, I get it, but
No, let Tom talk.
Okay. No, it's all right. Well, I'm trying to do a general summary, but there are some things that he doesn't mention in the book that I was like immediately, well, why don't you at least touch on the subject and say that we don't do that because of this? But we'll get into the discussion. So, unlike the what was the other book? It bore a lot of resemblance to me to
Nevernight.
Thank you. Yeah, we already had this kind of discussion. So.
I didn't see that connection. He actually said to that Jay Kristoff book, and I connected it to Lifelike. So when he said Nevernight, I was like, "Oh, really?" Like I didn't. It didn't. I guess.
Okay.
John would like you to
help
piece that together a little bit.
The difference here is that possible spoilers for Nevernight here. That essential plot is how to be an assassin at mean Hogwarts. Here it's how to be an assassin as a true apprentice, like the dark side. You know.
Okay. I can see where you connected it,
but that's not a fault. That's just noticing a similarity.
Right.
So, but we'll get into more of the book.
So at this point, we'll probably jump into those detailed spoilers. So again, if you haven't read the book, you don't want to be spoiled. See you soon. Mm-hmm. So one of the things that really, really made me attached to the book was the journal entries, was the Scythe's journal entries. And I felt like they were very reflective and they were just very human. Like it gave that human element and that emotional element, and it really showed how they struggled with what they had to do. And I don't think the book would have been the same without them. Like I don't think I would have enjoyed it nearly as much had it not been for those journal entries.
I agree.
And I think they do show different Scythe's journal entries, but I think the ones you see the most are Curie's, right? I think. Because I think hers are the ones that we open the book with.
No, he starts with historic. Like the first Blade, he had that was like the first entry, and you got the impression that it was going to be all historical texts. But then, like you said, they started to curate and all the contemporary sides.
Right. There's even a few from Goddard that. But they're not just used to show a little bit of humanity. It's also to show the inhumanity, and it's a cross between. There's a lot in those journal entries, and a lot that pull into the plot. Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, so I think the first journal entry, because again, she sent me the pictures of the things that I highlighted. It's from Curie, and she's essentially just talking about what begins on day one of their apprenticeship, which is maintaining that journal,
right, and
having to write everything down so they don't forget that they're human, so that later on in the future, when people are looking back at what we did. Mm-hmm. That they recognize that there was emotion and compassion and empathy and sorrow and grief and all that stuff. So I feel like that just the start of the book really touched me from the beginning, and I was like, oh my god. But that's just me. I'm really emotional. And I thought I was really going to dislike Citra. Because in the first chapter, when Faraday comes and he shows up, you know, she's just very, I don't know what word I'm looking for. She's just annoyed. She doesn't want them there. She's very blunt. She's very, very forward. And I expected just to hate her throughout the whole book. So I'm glad that that wasn't the case. What I know, Tom, that you had said that your main issue with the book was that if the Thunderhead was all-seeing, all-knowing, and so awesome, why didn't it also handle
death?
Right. And
they explained it, didn't they?
I felt like they did explain it.
No, I took it as, oh well, if they had the Thunderhead doing it, we wouldn't have a book.
I mean
that's true.
Yeah, I mean you're very, very, very correct there, because Thunderhead would just it's 100% correct. It doesn't make mistakes.
Well, that's what I mean. So why is that worse than having the sides?
Because there's no humanity in it.
But that's as it should be, because in the book we see the variance that brings.
Yeah.
Like with Goddard and such. I mean, in other words, with humans you have more extremes, but with the Thunderhead you have an average, and that's what the death experience should be.
I feel like though,
I agree, but I know too much, so I can't really.
Yeah, I know. This is only from the perspective of the first book.
So Kat said they felt that the taking of human lives should be a human's responsibility, and she says that she agrees with that. And I kind of agree with that too, because I think if you leave it to a machine to do it, I think at some point humans would become desensitized to the process. They would stop grieving. They would stop mourning. It would just be like, that's what the computer decided today.
Well, there's also a fear, an latent fear behind it, because Skynet. I mean, if you let the machine start killing everybody, then all the people that it deems that needs to die, it would. I mean, not only would it be a perfect balance, it would actually probably kill the humans that don't need to exist to expand humanity. But when does the machine start becoming corrupt and killing the wrong people and doing other,
just like the sides.
I just right. I just feel like that it's.
But I started Thunderhead, but I didn't get very far into it. And being as the name of the book is Thunderhead, it's named after the AI. I would assume we learn more about its potential flaws and
not just its flaws, but
I would hope so.
Yeah. And Kat also said it's taking a humanity out of it, and the loss of a human life should never not have humanity in it, whether it was compassionate or not. And I agree with that. I would not want to leave that up to a
cold and calculated machine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, in that regard, you guys know I've read Reaper Man, and there's a really good quote I could use from it, but I don't know if that would be considered a spoiler.
From Reaper Man?
From
Reaper Man, yeah.
I mean, I don't mind it. I'm curious now.
Because one of the things, the main point of the book is, what can the harvest care for if not for the care of the Reaper? What can the harvest hope for if not for the care of the Reaper Man?
Makes sense.
So.
Actually, that's perfect.
Yeah.
You reap what you sow.
So I'm trying to think.
I have a topic. If you're
yeah, because
what the hell is with the goddamn romance? All the breaking time in these books.
No, I knew we were gonna get here, and I figured that was what was next. Is because but
oh my god, really this got my eyes out.
The romance really didn't happen though. They didn't end up a thing, but I really do believe it was part of what was necessary for certain character growth. Specific character growth. It wasn't even necessarily it wasn't completely necessary, but it was necessary for something very minute and specific that really wasn't a playing role in this book, but it becomes something later. Okay.
Book 2 knowledge.
Yes, I can't. Okay. I can't do that. She was even she warned me going into this. She goes, "You need to be very careful." I was like, "I know," and it's driving me insane because there's stuff that Tom should know that he doesn't, and he won't unless he picks up that other book.
So Kat agrees that she didn't like the romance. I didn't either.
No, I didn't either.
When
I was like, why?
Happening, I was like, oh, come on, we don't really need this. But considering they're pitted against each other pretty much from the beginning, if there wasn't that element, there would be no resistance. Like how it wouldn't really be fun if they already hated each other from the beginning. That
and then we would have
like there are specific reasons for these minute things, but they're without them, there wouldn't be that tension, there wouldn't be that drama, there wouldn't be, and it sucks. It really sucks that there's specific plot devices, but they do play a role.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Sorry, I had talked to somebody else about this who, was like, "Ugh, the romance totally not needed," blah 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 blah. And one of the things that she mentioned was that what would have been better was to make them siblings.
Yes,
so that it would have been, better.
And then have the romance.
But then, but if they had made them siblings, that at least not only could
Star Wars got away with it for a while.
There was a that's because they didn't know.
They couldn't
know, right?
But sorry, go ahead. We digress.
If they made them siblings, though, that would be more behind it because there's something else further in the book they have to do in order to become a Scythe that would actually probably play a different plot role if they were siblings.
So Kat is saying the same thing. Why not some kind of close friendship? They felt like the romance was just cheesy. And I agree with all of that.
Like best friends that grew up together or some crap.
At the same time, to me, the romance felt empty enough. Like nothing actually ever really happens between them. So because they don't actually get together, they don't sleep together, they don't end up a couple. And because of that, I felt like it was there to kind of build that mutual appreciation and care for one another with the potential of maybe much later on, who knows. And I don't think it was that terrible. Like, because nothing really happened between them, it didn't feel as cheesy as it might have if they had really gotten together.
I agree. It would have been worse if they had actually finalized something. But there's also playing into the idea that if the relationship didn't work out, then it would be easy for one of them to do what they had to do. Or I don't know. There's too many ways to play it. But I'm glad that it wasn't a full relationship. Is it too spoilery to say something about Thunderhead about it?
I would say yes.
Okay.
Yeah, but if they had gone for first off, my objection to it was like it seems like in a lot of these YA novels they always have the romance plot line, and it's like, oh come on, can't we have one without it, please?
It's fan service. Come on.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm not a fan, so I guess I wasn't service.
it's for all the YA lovers, all the young adults.
Oh yeah, and again, I know this is not pitched to me. I'm not the target demographic here. I'm just saying this is what I think. But if they had something between the two characters, that would have made the final test something different. If you see what I'm getting at.
Yeah, right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But Kat says it's precisely because of the fact that nothing happens that it felt so unnecessary. And she said, I agree, romance does not need to exist in every YA book.
Okay,
and I
she didn't
agree
just
with
say
that
she
too.
screamed it.
She screamed it, yeah.
All caps going on there.
Yeah, all caps. Does not need to exist.
I wholeheartedly agree with that. And I keep picking books when it's my turn to pick. I try to pick books that don't have that element. And every time it's in there anyway, I'm like, God damn it. Because I want to pick something that's just interesting without a romance. Because I know that some people find it even more cheesy than I do. I mean, I could probably always take some romance. Not when it's forced, though. If it's just forced in there for the purpose of being just in there, it doesn't.
Well, that's why I liked Lifelike, because of Jay Kristoff's take on that particular trope. I'll leave it at that. So.
I need to reread that before the next one comes out in a few months.
Man. Yeah, I'm becoming a very, very big fan of Jay Kristoff. Like everything he does. Not even just in his writing, but his Instagram posts, his Twitter jokes, everything. He's just like... Yes.
But I think, despite the romance, what's really interesting is seeing that, what was his name? What was the boy's name? Rowan.
I remember it because it's a car. Citra and Rowan. Citroen.
Oh, Kat says she didn't like the romance in life either, so I don't know.
It wasn't
okay. So she's read it. But,
yeah.
My reference in this case, because anytime they say Citra, I know Citra is a hop that's used in beer. So it's like, oh, yay, beer!
Yay, beer!
Something that makes me happy.
But the fact that Citra and Rowan were both kind of picked up by Faraday.
Oh, wouldn't it be cool if that's how he got the names? If it's Citra, I know Citra. Sorry. Go ahead. Continue.
So that Faraday was like, took them both on as an apprentice, and, you know, things happen to where he doesn't get to kind of lead them through the entire process. Mm-hmm. But they just end up so completely different in the way they act. Like, I don't know.
Well, are you saying that was before that Faraday did what he did, or after? Because after they went with separate people, and then like they were trained very specifically.
They were trained very differently, but like it just felt like Rowan didn't retain what Faraday had tried to instill. It didn't feel like it to me.
Well,
in the first book,
I don't think he would have done what he did if he didn't. I don't know if that makes sense at all, but
if you read the book, yeah, but
yeah, that's.
But when Desirai and I talked about this, like I guess about a week ago, I said to me it seemed like a Karate Kid retread, and she's like, "Really?" It's like, how could you not see this? It's like the good dojo versus the bad dojo, and how one operates with honor, and since the other one just like brash and showy and more personal, it makes it about them.
I mean, I see that, but I still never would have put those two things together.
Yeah.
I don't. I like that you have these comparisons, and apparently I haven't critiqued enough to come up with these myself. But I just maybe that's it. It's just I don't actually look at it and pick it apart. I just take it.
I don't. It's just like when I see this, it's just like it just pops in your head. And it's like, oh
no, yeah, I get it.
So I'm not really picking it apart. It's just something that occurred to me through the book. It's like, it's the same thing. And then when you're talking about Rowan, he and Citra are the products of their training, which is by design. Now,
go ahead. Sorry, you finished.
No, I would say if Rowan, who wasn't who he was, he would have succumbed to Gaara's training, and we would have a whole totally different novel.
Right.
Oh.
But so we've talked about how none of us were really fans of the Citrin Roa spark, or
look how you just crossed their names.
Yeah. Now I can't think of Citrin now.
I can't keep them apart now. It's Citrin and Roa.
What?
That's what you just said.
What? Did I really?
Roll back the tape.
All right.
Oh my god. Anyway, but what about the other romance? What were your thoughts on the other romance? Did it feel?
Oh, I knew that happened way before they even told me.
Really?
Yeah.
There's
a specific point where the first conclave that they go to, when he slightly describes their interaction, they look at each other from across the room, blah blah blah. I'm like, that's crap. But it was not a good foreshadowing, but I saw it. Mm-hmm. I saw it.
I don't think I did. I knew that when the letter came in where they were trying to accuse Citra of doing something to Faraday, I was like, who are they talking? The only other female Scythe was Curie, so I was like, they must be talking about her.
I don't recall it being an accusation. It was more like evidence thereof, like from his diary, and it was they did a bait and switch. I thought he was referring to Citra, but he wasn't.
But I don't know. That made me happy. I don't know why. It made me happy. To me, that's like a very human mistake, right? It reminds me a little bit of like what happened in Outlander just recently. A little bit, like people that. I'm not gonna spoil it, but like just we've seen it in movies, and I think it happens in real life. People make commitments to certain things, and love weasels its way in there, and
damn it,
and people give in to that temptation. And for me, it's never like, how could you? It's like, like
how could you not?
This is the reason why that fan service is there, just so you guys know.
Oh, that's what that looks like. Okay.
Well, there's more insight to both of those interactions later. So
I was disappointed that they didn't like. I guess they I don't remember what they were how they were punished.
Deaths.
No, they were punished in a different way.
Who?
Wait, they had to die certain times?
Yeah.
For the 7 years that they spent, they had to die 7 times for each other.
Oh my god. Well, I'd like to see that go somewhere.
See what goes somewhere?
I want them to end up together.
Well, we have a third book.
See? Oh yeah. That romance sucks, but I want them to end up together.
No, I didn't think no, not Rowan and Citra. I want Faraday and Curie to end up together.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Don't they retire at some point?
I know too much. You can't ask me questions.
All right, sorry.
Stop looking at me for answers, because I'm going to spoil the crap out of some shit.
Yeah,
and everybody's going to be unhappy.
Yeah, we'll put Thunderhead on the list for your next round. But one of the stories this reminded me of. There's the story, and I don't remember the title, but the collection is called "The History of the World in 9.5 Weeks" by Julian Barnes, and it gives kind of what a picture of what heaven looks like. And it's like, you get up, you have every day you have the perfect breakfast. You go shoot 18 hole-in-ones at golf, and and that's what this society is.
That doesn't sound like fun.
Exactly, and that's what the society they live in. That's what.
Right. Okay.
And it's like, why work if you're being provided for? Why, it's because you don't have anything else better to do.
At least they explained it a little bit. The Thunderhead actually gave people positions and
purpose,
and jobs. Yeah. He gave them reasons to continue living.
Right. Otherwise, we have a higher suicide rate.
Splatting.
Yeah.
I feel like the corruption just in the Scythedom was just so familiar.
Hmm?
Like our own government corruption.
Like a political soiree. Everything is like on the surface.
Well, the fact that I don't remember what his name was, but the High Scythe or whatever.
Xenocrates.
That, obviously they're not supposed to be having relationships. They're not supposed to be together. And yet he has a daughter that he's been trying to hide for.
Which brings me to, this reminds me of the Catholic Church in the Middle Ages, in the sense that you have a priesthood where you're ordained, you're supposed to be celibate.
Right.
Nobody
supposed to be celibate.
And you're beyond the law. Supposed to be, yeah. I know they have, what do they call the 1 year things? That they won't go after you. It was like the indulgences that they were selling in the Catholic Church. I'm surprised they didn't have that in there. Like immunity, year immunity.
Right.
From reaping.
Right. I felt like a year wasn't a long time.
It's not.
But it's just
not if they're living for 90.
Right, but it was just
a century.
Yeah.
It didn't mean that after that year you were definitely going to die. It just meant that you were back on the.
You're back in the pool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. What was the deal? I feel like there was more depth to the Tonists that I was missing.
There is.
Well, okay. Apart from book 1, they are the conflicting religion here to the sides. For whatever reason.
Nah, I really like what he did with the Tonists in book 2.
Okay.
But I can't say much, and they really didn't have a point in one out of kind of being a more. It was like a hint towards another story.
Sure.
But there is definitely a lot more to the Tonists and their significance to the major story. Holy crap!
Okay.
Like I can almost imagine Kat going, "Shut up."
Oh, like she did. No, I'm kidding.
Well, you're technically supposed to be leading this.
I can't because
I know.
You hurt me. You're all like, stop, John, shut up.
So he told you.
Yeah, so I can't because I have a very very hard time differentiating stories when I consume the whole thing.
I mean,
I like Harry Potter. I can't tell you what where, and that's sad because they are separated in specific stories. But I don't know. I can't do that.
But the really interesting thing is that we knew that book 3 was not available yet. It doesn't have a cover. It doesn't have.
Yeah, we always pick trilogies like this, don't we?
But it doesn't even have a release date at this point. And I had been hearing a lot of people say, "Oh, the ending of the second book was just such a cliffhanger." And I kept telling him, "Are you sure you want to start it now? Because it's going to be bad." And for days, like almost like. Yeah. A whole week after he finished it, he just kept bringing it up. He's like, I can't stop thinking about it. Mm-hmm. So I'm surprised you did that to yourself.
I'm not. I'm dumb. But it was worth it. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm really, Tom, I know you didn't like a few things in here, but I really hope you do check out the second book.
And the thing is, I can't really point to, I mean, I like the world that he built and I like the size and everything, just for some reason. I don't know, like when you get like the initial first impressions, it's just, I don't know, just from the get-go, just didn't hit me.
No, I get it, because you look at it, you read that part, and you're like, ugh, really?
Yeah.
And then, but there's reason.
But if we if it comes up on the on our reading list, then I will certainly read it. But
okay,
will I rush to pick it up? No.
Well,
sorry.
But knowing what I know, I just know that it'll turn it around for you just a little bit.
Okay. All right. Well.
So, I mean, I guess maybe let's just talk about those bad Scythes for a bit. Now, if I recall correctly, they were holding on to reaping, like they were avoiding reaping for days at a time, or weeks.
They would jackass around and then say, "Oh, we're going to kill 300 people today." That's,
yeah. Mass reapings.
Yeah.
Now I kind of had a hard time with the fact that Neal didn't use that as a what's the word I'm looking for? But because Faraday said, he looked up statistics and he was like, okay, there was this much chance of this happening, and this, you just gotta. He reaped the kid because you just got a car. 1 out of every 14 teenagers die in a car accident.
He's trying to model the former life.
Well, right. So you could at least use that as a stepping stone to, well, 1 out of every 2,000 planes went down, and we took everybody with it, so they could use that as a
thought of that
as a reason.
Well, that happened too.
He didn't even say that. Like, that wasn't brought up at all. Like it could be justified somehow because of that being the case at post-mortal age.
I mean,
pre-mortal age.
I think that he wanted it to seem very inherently evil.
Well, inhumane.
Right.
I get it.
But if you look at real life, the way life is now, I don't remember what they were calling it. They did have a word for it. They did have a word.
The mortal age?
Yeah. So if you do look at the mortal age, then things like that would happen. And as much as like it sucks that a whole plane of people would end up dying, we don't look at it and say, it just sucks. No, it happens. It's like we regard it the same way we regard, because like you're either gonna die in a car crash or a plane crash or on a boat or in your sleep, or like there's only so many ways.
It happened.
Yeah, but it's the way they went about it.
I get it. He took like the cat said, he took the humanity out of it. Yeah. I get it. But that could have been used as an argument for, because when some people were talking crap about him about it later, the interesting Oh wait, I don't know if that happens in that book.
All right, be careful with that.
Damn it! I can't even ask you if it happens because it could ruin it.
Because then you're just gonna ruin it. Yeah.
Okay.
So let's pretend we did it.
Quick mute.
Oh!
But like, you know, outside of the the human ego feeling so powerful because of its ability to, you know, take not just a life but multiple lives, was there more to it than that?
I'm not sure I understand.
Like,
repeat the question.
Goddard was definitely on some kind of power trip, and he collected enough Scythes to buy into that philosophy, right? Because they were the masters of death. They were the ones.
The philosophy is that whether or not a Scythe should enjoy killing.
Right, which he did.
Right.
And I assume that was because it made him feel powerful.
Possibly, yes. More than likely, yes.
But there was no, like, energy aspect to it, right? They didn't get
like Highlander? What the hell are you talking about?
I don't know, maybe. There was no... Other than just, like, killing somebody and being like, hey, I'm powerful because I just killed them. There was no other energy behind it. Like, okay.
No. You are talking like Highlander. No.
Okay.
No, there was no other reason for them to take lives outside of their quota. They have to do a certain amount, and if they actually reap too many, or glean is the word we're misusing here. If they glean too many, then they're still reprimanded.
But even their quota was not enough to prevent overpopulation, from what I remember. Like, they were still, even with them abiding by their quota, there was still.
They'll explain more of that in the next book too.
Because I was going to say, yeah, they got it on the death end here, but what about birth control? Didn't anybody hear that in this advanced civilization?
Right. No, that's all that's explained.
And they get it, you're bored, and you have to find something to do, so this is what you're going to do, but... You
know. What are your thoughts on the whole aspect? So Kat said there were talks to increase the quotas.
But the old guard actually talked against that because of that they were worried that those Scythes would actually end up liking it too much. If they had to kill too much, then they had to become numb to it, and they didn't want to do that. So the old guard was kind of holding on to the idea that, you know, you still want to have a little bit of humanity in the Scythes, but the new order, or whatever they were calling themselves, they're like, well, we're supposed to, why not enjoy what you do, right? But so that wasn't an overall Scythe philosophy, was that, you know, Scythes shouldn't enjoy what they do. That was just kind of an old way of thinking and an honorable Faraday way of thinking. Right.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Miyagi school of thinking. Go ahead.
There was something else that I was going to ask in regards.
The Scythe meetings were called conclave.
Yeah.
Conclaves, yes.
What were your thoughts on, like, the whole idea of splattering? Splatting.
Killing yourself?
Because it seemed like, you know, some people took that as an opportunity to just be a daredevil, or to just have
an adrenaline junkie.
Yeah, adrenaline junkie.
Well, first of all, you get one accident, and then that one, the first revival's free. Mm-hmm. You do it after that, you have to actually have to pay for it.
So then, what if you can't afford it? That'd be my question.
That's good. That's a very good question. They didn't actually touch on that, did they?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah,
because they explained that the one guy who was talking about doing it had his parents that were paying for it, right?
So Kat says she thought it
was.
That's
why he was doing it.
Such a teenage.
Oh
thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Because I mean, at that point, he's doing it and not taking any responsibility for it. So yeah.
Right. That's what an asshole teenager. But yeah, they actually talked a little bit more about it and how society actually drove a certain number of people to want to have to do that anyway, but forgetting that they'll be revived at the end, and then I don't think I can go past that point because that's another spoiler for the Thunderhead.
Well, but they still had a way of finalizing things, which is what fire was. That there was essentially no way.
And thank God you had a character who always had a flamethrower. That's all I have to say about that.
Good point.
That's like his signature move, man. It's like, oh yeah, this is going to be important later.
Hold on. Kat says the parents gave him over to the government because they were tired of him splatting, and the government is now responsible for him and pays for it.
The government being the Thunderhead.
Right, the Thunderhead.
Mm-hmm. Another thing that comes into play is the idea that when your parents are done with you and they turn you over to the Thunderhead actually cares for all of these kids and all these people, that he actually like nurtures them and teaches them and lets them grow up learning from him, which I really do like. I'm just saying that there's more to that as well. Mm-hmm. So his name was Tiger.
Was it?
I think his name was Tiger.
Rowan's friend, yeah.
I didn't like that.
It's the professional partier.
Yes, he is.
Oh, he is? Okay. Alrighty then.
Yes, he is.
What are your thoughts on the kind of Matrix aspect of Citra being able to communicate with the Thunderhead?
Okay, that's where I stopped because I didn't know how much of that he does in the first book.
In the first book,
that's the
she jumped. I think she jumped off a roof to escape.
That's a great loophole, by the way.
Yeah, also known as the Jon Snow loophole, if you get my understanding.
So, what? But what did he say to her? Did he say that most people don't remember that part?
Probably. I don't know.
Because why was she able to remember her communications with the Thunderhead in between?
That wasn't said.
Because I wouldn't imagine the Thunderhead would talk to people.
He does not need to do that with anybody else.
Okay, so he doesn't. It just doesn't happen.
He doesn't need to do that with anybody else.
Oh, okay. She said, "Stop, John." Oh, and then I think she might be responding to you mentioning Jon Snow, and she says,
"Yes,
which part? Which part are you referring to?"
Well, I don't want to again spoil Game of Thrones, but first he's in the Night's Watch, and then he's not. I'll just say that.
Okay.
Oh yeah, good call.
You're gonna have to explain that to me later, because
okay.
Yeah, when we get off camera, I'll tell you.
Okay. So, do you have?
Let me just say, I really do like creative loopholes. Just saying, okay, all right. That's I have a problem with it.
It's cheating because I think
it is cheating. It is. There's a little bit of cheating there, but it works. Yes.
I think so. Yes. Yes.
If you haven't watched Game of Thrones, don't read the chat right now.
Well, I don't see in the chat, so I have read Game of Thrones.
Yeah,
so
she's caught up. So she's
okay.
Like, you're not
okay. Oh, good.
I'm ready for that to come back. We should probably read those at some point.
I had somebody actually ask me about the dragons shirt I was wearing yesterday. They were like, "Valeria Dragons, what is that? What is that a reference? Is that D&D?" I was like, "No. How old are you?" I was like, "No."
You have to be of a certain age to come to D&D.
And everybody in line, like I was in line at Publix, and the guy that was bagging asked me the question. The girl behind the counter, she was like, "Oh, I never watched Game of Thrones. I'm too weak for that." And then everybody behind me was like, "Oh." There was like an exasperated, like a group sigh going. But what?
What does the shirt say? Just team.
It's just Valeria Dragons. That's it.
Oh, okay.
It's like a sports team.
It's like a sports team shirt.
Valeria, yeah.
So I'm trying to think of where things left. Well, okay. So what do you think about Citra's approach to her gleanings? Because I feel like she took a very
she went creative with it. I mean, she actually she's trying to bring humanity back into it,
Right.
and I like that. And I also like the fact that it stirred up somebody's britches a little bit.
Who?
That the new guard started getting, like the people who like to follow Goddard was starting to talk crap at Conclave about it.
Mm-hmm. Well, again, we had this discussion in the VIP chat. Because I made the connection to the Green Lanterns and the lanterns in the emotional spectrum in DC. Like what kind of lanterns would they be? And
that was good. I like that because everybody picks their colors accordingly.
Yeah, but in the DC universe, the ring chooses you, and then but yeah, if you read having read this book, I would suggest if not read the comic books, just look up the emotional spectrum on Wikipedia and read it. I think it connects to this pretty well. So.
Do you guys have a favorite character in the book?
If I was to say who my favorite character might have been, what would you think?
If you were to say,
it's a toss-up between two characters, but for me, one of them would be very freaking obvious. Okay, while she's thinking, Tom.
What? Who you would have liked?
My favorite character would have been.
Tiger.
Nah. Close, but nah.
I'm having trouble figuring out if I think it's your favorite character or if it's just my favorite character.
I'll say it anyway.
Yours would be Curie. No?
I think it would be Faraday.
Faraday?
Mine would be Faraday. But I was also going to say yours would be Faraday, but then I was like, it's between Faraday and Rowan.
She's got it.
So Rowan? Okay.
No, Faraday. It's a toss-up between the two.
Yeah.
But I think because of Rowan, I just like the things that he accomplishes, and that I've always liked rooting for the underdog and then them coming out of certain situations differently than everybody's expecting. Mm-hmm. So when Goddard was telling him to kill the lead, what was the lead tonist's name? When he was like, and Rowan was like, after the thrust of the sword, he goes, yeah, that felt good. I was like, I knew it just happened, and I was like, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's easier for most people to root for someone that does bad things as long as they're doing them for good reasons. And I don't think I'm that person.
Oh.
I still struggle with that. I'm like, I get why you did that, but it was still wrong. Like for me, because I feel like I have a high moral compass. So I would try so hard to get through situations without having to do the wrong thing. I'm sure there's a breaking point for everyone.
So Anastasia would be your best. But you really do like Faraday more than Anastasia? Citra.
Oh. Okay, thank you.
Sorry.
What?
Scythe Anastasia is her name.
Right. I forgot that.
Which is connecting to 2 or 3 of the books that we've read without spoiling any of them. But yes, go ahead.
I mean, I feel like I like Faraday more because it seems to me he's more willing to put himself through pain than to do the wrong thing. And I think that's my philosophy pretty much. So that's why Faraday would be my favorite character.
I do like Faraday.
Yeah, well.
Feel free to chime in with who your favorite character was. And
you have a choice of 4, essentially. I mean,
it could have been anyone. It could. I mean, somebody could say
Goddard. Yeah, hooray! Okay, see, maybe not.
He's not afraid to do what he needs to do.
Yeah, maybe not. You see, that's what I'm saying. You set up to have 4, or the Thunderhead.
I will say, though, that as much as I dislike Goddard, I occasionally read some of his journal entries that I was kind of like, he's kind of making sense.
Yeah, he's not wrong.
And that bothered me. Yeah. So Kat said, not Faraday. It's her favorite character. I'm waiting.
Anybody but, right? Screw that guy. Nah.
But it bothered me. It bothered me that there were moments where I could see what Goddard was saying, and I didn't want to. And then I had trouble when I was like pitting new philosophy versus old philosophy, when I was just kind of looking at it in terms of that. Or
Republican versus Democrat.
Right. Or if I did that, then I was having even more trouble with it. And I was trying not to, I guess.
Hey, I mean, I'll do it for you.
It was kind of mixed though, because there were some things that I felt like you could say is democratic. And then
she brought this up before, and I don't think it was Republican versus Democrat as of what we're dealing with right now. I think it was what the Republicans and the Democrat were dealing with in the past, like when the Republicans were trying to actually, because they were the small majority, they were dealing with their issues, and they were trying to take over what the Democrats were. Democrats had this country first, and then the Republicans came in and just tried to twist everything into their perspective, and that's what I thought the new order was.
Okay. I didn't get that deep.
So we haven't made it that far yet, because now
I'm still waiting for Kat to tell me who her favorite character is.
She said not Faraday.
I know, but that's not a good answer. She has to have one that she liked following or hearing about or something.
Every perspective changes dramatically in the next book, and it's so good. Like, the character growth is actually kind of impressive.
What is everyone's thoughts about what Curie used to do? Because didn't Curie kind of offer herself up to the families of the people that she had gleaned?
She liked Volta.
Volta?
What? He was like the Jiminy Cricket of the freaking of the Goddard group. Yeah. He was like the one that was like, he had the empathy for the entire group. Like, he was the one that was crying over the things that he was actually upset that they were doing. But
he kind of saw anyway.
But he saw what they were trying to push for, and he believed in some of it, just not all of it. And then when he had to go and glean, Volta's he was a good character.
I mean,
he's the one that they would play the Adagio for strings for. To get my reference.
I don't know. I had empathy for him in the end, but I also felt like he was kind of a weak character. Not as far as like the way he was written, but like as his personality.
I was actually expecting him to be a plant. A spy or some sort of like he's going back and telling somebody else what's going on. But I was
So Kat says, I don't understand why he never left if he didn't agree with their methods. And that's why I feel like he was a very weak character, because if he couldn't stand up to what he knew was wrong or what he felt deeply was wrong, like, to me, that's weakness. Because at that point he's just peer pressured and going with the crowd, and that was kind of upsetting. I mean, I think he helped Rowan kind of find his place.
Yeah.
But as the character himself, I felt like Volta was weak, and it kind of bothered me.
Mm-hmm.
But
that's good though. I like it.
but it was very sad. I don't know.
Okay, I can identify with Volta, but he's not my favorite character.
Okay. I don't know. Is there any other? Are there any other things to say or ask or add or topics?
On the margins, hello.
Oh, hey! Hey! So remember when I said that someone had mentioned that maybe their relationship should have been brother-sister? That's on the margins, and she's in the chat right now. So thanks for joining us. So we're kind of like wrapping things up. But if you have anything to add, at this point, we're just talking about like our favorite character. And I said Faraday, you said Rowan.
I did.
And then who did Tom say?
I didn't.
He did. I was waiting.
Mine would
be
Faraday.
I don't have
for lack of a better choice, Faraday would be it.
Okay.
And then
wow, that's a hell of a way to put it.
I didn't love the novel like you guys did. Sorry.
Kat says she felt like Goddard was holding something over him, which is why he never left. And that's very possible. I mean, he was very manipulative.
I don't remember the idea. I think he actually feared for his life.
He did.
Yeah.
Mm.
Like he wasn't completely sure that Goddard wouldn't take another Scythe's life.
Hmm.
And that's one thing I liked about the book was that how he handled Faraday's disappearance. It's like right when he's describing it, okay, Goddard for sure did it.
I know, that's what I felt.
Yep. There was a lot of that, and I was like, no, there's got to be a twist here.
Yep.
Well, I almost threw the book when they said that.
She was yelling at me like over and over again. She goes, "Are you serious?"
And I was, because they were saying that he had gleaned himself or taken his own life or whatever, and I was like, no, he didn't. He wouldn't have done that, even if it was for like for them. I just didn't feel like he would have done that, and I was like, he was set up. Someone killed him. I know they did, and I was just like really, really upset that
I had a brief like maybe someone killed him. Okay, that'd be cool. It makes sense. At least he didn't do it on his own. He was forced into it. But afterwards, when all the clues started chiming in, I was like, they were serious.
I was just like, how dare you take away my Faraday?
But there's more. But wait, there's more.
Yes. Even though they had to hold on to that ridiculous, there's 2 apprentices and there can be only one, and it's like, oh come on, really?
Yeah.
So that was a weakness. Yeah, it was a weakness in the plot.
I don't know if if Faraday's kind of ignorance to what happened was that believable. Because he did what he was gonna do. He tried to save them, and then
he tried to be something. He's probably trying to do something like, because everybody's like, "Oh, you only pick one apprentice," and then they're all like, "You're doing something weird. Why are you doing it like this?" And then I think that it kind of added. It had to add to the story. It was kind of partially like that's like 25%, maybe 30% of the story now is the fact that they were pitted against each other at the end.
Right, but the fact that Faraday did that and was just kind of like, "Oh, but I saved you guys, didn't I?" Like he didn't kind of think that through a little bit more. Like that he really thought, well,
that was I got the impression that was kind of secondary in the sense that I don't want to be a Scythe anymore and I don't want to die. So what's the options here? I'll disappear and I'll live in South America on the beach. It's kind of like the Roman Catholic priesthood. You're a priesthood until you die, and then what other options do you have? You want to be a priest anymore?
On the margin says, yeah, I totally agree. That didn't make sense. I mean, at first I was kind of thinking that he would sacrifice for them or just, do whatever he needed to help them. But
well, she said, but then why would he take on apprentices? No, he took on the apprentices because he knew that he wanted to he was one of the most honorable ones, and he kind of had to share that and bring somebody else on.
But why did he pick two? Go ahead.
He took 2 apprentices so that I guess he maybe there was a way of alleviating the problems that he had with his previous apprentice. Now, he was never expecting for the conclave to actually pit them against each other, but when that happened, it kind of broke his heart. So that's when he did what he did.
Wow, that's interesting because I wouldn't have looked at it like that. Almost like, well, if I bring on a boy, then you're not going to crush on me, kind of thing. Like,
right.
That's
I mean, that again, they explain more about that relationship later. So,
yes, he's a secret member of their genetics program. They're going to make genetic super Scythe babies with Citra and Rowan.
Oh man,
not that.
That must have been really hard.
There's still a 3rd book, I'll have you know.
Yeah. I'm really hoping that he doesn't do certain things in that book, but I know he's gonna. But it's right now. It's just you guys. I want you to read Thunderhead, but don't do it just yet. Don't torture yourself.
You're safe. I won't torture you.
I'm not. I'm not.
Yeah, we're
I done messed up.
On the margin says, in regards to him kind of bringing on Rowan to protect himself or put like something in between.
Oh yeah, but you can't.
But you can't like each other. You can't crush on each other.
I really don't think that was done specifically.
But this is a young adult novel. We have to. Oh, okay. Carry on.
Stop, John. Stop. I think Kat's more just yelling at you because she's going to want to pick it up and then she's going to hate you when she does. She's going to want to read it and be like, why did I read that?
Well, in a more general sense, that whenever I see the polls, it's like, okay, and you look at the it's like 2 books out of the 3 are out. Why are we reading an incomplete trilogy? This is like the second or third time that's happened now.
Every time she wants to go, oh, hey, this new show's coming out. Let's watch it. I'm like, can't you just wait until it's all out?
I don't feel like I have to binge things like that. I know some people do, but I don't. She said, yeah, she is. I know she's going to end up reading it, and then she's going to be so angry about the ending, whatever the ending is. I don't know.
That's all I have to say about that.
But
I knew it was coming.
It worries me that there's no release date yet. Not that it won't come out, because I'm sure it will. I'm pretty sure the series is doing really well, but
March 2020. That's my guess.
Jeez, that's a long time. She said
it's all your fault, John.
Yeah, see. But that said, I did like where he left off in the first book. It was kind of cliffhanger, but it kind of tied up the story. Like, you knew more was coming, but it tied off the story, and you weren't like getting loose ends.
This is kind of specific, but what did you guys think about that journal entry where he was talking about Curie? Like, you think he was actually worried that she was trying to hurt him or harm him, or?
Dude, he was a dumb guy. He didn't know that she loved him. He was like, oh my God, she's gonna murder me. What the hell?
That just seems weird to me.
Have you never seen Fatal Attraction, John?
Oh my gosh.
He was an idiot dude, and they explain
but
more
Curie
of that
is
too.
Curie. Like, I can't imagine she was like shooting lasers out of her eyes, being like.
Well, yeah, but it could be that she was showing intense interest in him. He's like, oh, what the hell is this, and for whatever reason he came up with, oh, she's trying to kill me,
or maybe she was overcompensating. Like, she was overcompensating in an effort to try to seem like she wasn't interested. Maybe she was acting weird, and
he was paranoid. He didn't think she was loving him. She was sitting at his door at night, and he can hear her breathing, and he's like, "Oh my God, what the hell's going on?"
Yeah, because that's not creepy. There you go.
On the margin says, "I totally believe that Faraday was an idiot dude in his youth." Also, it's pretty freaky to live with a stalkerish person.
Yeah, well, see, there you go.
I guess I can see that, but they still hit it off eventually anyway.
Yeah, after she was like, "Oh my God, you idiot! I'm not gonna kill you."
Yeah, she met you. I don't know. I would like to see more of Curie. I feel like I was kind of on the fence about Curie. Like,
I can't imagine you wouldn't at this point. You know?
I feel like there were things that I really liked about her, and there was things that I was kind of like, really? I don't know. She was similar to Faraday, but then still had her own quirkiness, I think. Poor John.
He did this to himself.
I did. I really did. I really did. And she told me beforehand, "Are you sure you want to read it before?" I'm like, yeah. Let me just say, I've also read the entire Magician's trilogy already this month.
John has read more books than me this month.
Uh-oh. You're slacking.
She said, "How much does it suck to be the only person who has read the next book?"
Apparently, pretty much, because I want to be all like, but the things, and this happens, and oh my God, and this person, and this.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually. Okay.
I'm going to forget everything by the time we talk about it.
Yeah.
Pretty much how that's going to go.
Pretty much, yeah.
Oh, but Thunderhead, come on.
I don't know, man. And I've like looked at the Thunderhead cover and I've been like, look at the differences between the cover, and I've just said things and made guesses, and John just stares at me.
Well, now that you mentioned the covers, that I think that bears
can't tell her to stop now.
Evidence to my theory of the super sad babies, because they'll have the 2 sides and they'll have the little size of it on the cover.
I don't think they're gonna, but I don't think they're gonna breed sides. That'd be weird.
I hope not.
I don't know. So, final thoughts in regards to
bah humbug.
Okay, I'm gonna let Tom go first this time.
Oh, okay.
Final thoughts. Give us your rating.
Well, wait. Let me. What do you think? What do you think I would have rated it?
I was honestly expecting you to like it because I felt like with the Reaper things,
I wanted at least a 3 out of it, and then I saw what I was like.
I was hoping.
Gives you an idea, yeah. I gave it a 2. Like I said, I just could not get into it, and it could be like I said from the very first thing, and or the time when I read it, I started reading it, I wasn't into it, and that just continued, and it's like, the end, hooray! What?
Stupid love story ruined it for me and Tom both, because I was excited for Tom to read it after reading it, and then when he was all like, I didn't like it, I'm like, no! But whatever.
You're wrong. Yeah.
As soon as I saw that you gave it a 2, I was like, it was the romance.
Yeah. It's the kind of thing where you notice something in the book. Well, like with the Colleen, not Colleen, the Cuba book.
Cuba book, yeah.
Yeah. Once you notice something, you can't unsee it, and so it was like this. It was like whenever anything would happen, I would be like predisposed toward negativity toward the book. Which is it unfair? Probably, but that's I don't know how to counteract that, so I give it a 2.
Okay, you give it a 2, but if you were forced to, you would still read the second book.
I wouldn't say forced to.
I don't want to force him to do it if he doesn't want to, but I want him to read it.
I would be amenable to, like I said, I would read it, but I would not rush to pick it up.
Right.
Okay.
Do you think there's a chance that explanations in the second book might
maybe
change your opinion on the first one? Okay.
Yeah. But especially since they backed off the romance, except for I love you. Now go. Well, yeah. Oh shit! You almost had it. Yeah, almost had it.
Oh, yeah. There were 2 points in Scythe that I was like, really, why? Mm-hmm. But again, it's necessary. They were necessary.
Well, while we're giving our reviews, you guys in the chat feel free to kind of say what you rated it, and I'll share that. Did you have more to add to your 2-star rating? Cat's crying. She said a 2.
Yeah.
I love story.
Sorry, yeah. Read my book for me now. But like I said, if had I picked it up another time and read it different, and if I was a different person, maybe I would have liked it more. I mean, I don't hate it. But there's just like like you said, if you don't like a person, how you're like always predisposed to see them in a negative light. Right. That's what's happening here. So
good job, Neal.
And that's on me. That's not on the book.
Nah, I get it.
Yeah, it doesn't say that's not. It doesn't say that the book is bad. It's just that I didn't care for it, which is a different story. So next.
My ratings tend to be like very instinctual and like just a gut reaction, and based on how much and how quickly I want to devour the story. And so for me, this was a 5-star.
Okay.
And I definitely want to read the next one. I love his writing. I love the worlds that he sets up, and I love how much I was questioning things in myself as I was reading it. So
I was excited to get what?
One other thing, I think maybe Challenger Deep may have poisoned the well. In a sense that I was expecting this, but I got this instead.
Right.
Okay, so you started at the wrong end of the wrong part of the scale.
On the Shusterman line, yeah.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Okay.
Sorry.
No worries. That was good. That was a great point. But I gave it a 5 because I really liked it.
I mean, you've been getting all the books you've been reading lately.
I've been handing out 5s like Oprah, all right? I've been like 5 for
you. Get a 5.
Candy. You get a 5.
But
you get a 5.
Like I said at the beginning of this, Scythe was kind of what actually drove me. It actually made me realize how much I enjoy these postmodern, post-apocalyptic, dystopian type, utopian futures.
Well, yeah. This is the case where I'm glad you brought that up again. To me, it's more of a utopia that turns into a dystopia, but
right.
it's not post-apocalyptic.
Right.
Yet.
So
spoiler.
On the margin says, I'm not reading Thunderhead till the trilogy is complete, but the wait is
see, now she's sensible.
No, I was dumb. Everybody, because she was even like, everybody's saying, oh, it's a horrible, crazy cliffhanger, blah, blah, blah. And now you got to wait for the writing. Yeah, the book's not even out yet. And I was like, I like the first one so much, why not? And I'm pretty sure everybody else is like, enjoyed the hell out of Scythe and was waiting for Thunderhead to come out. They read Thunderhead day 1 or 2 or the first week, and then are crying for the entire year. And at least I didn't do that to myself.
I feel like I'm waiting for, because I started it, but then I put it aside because I had other things that I needed to finish. But I want to at least wait for a release date. I know. Okay, all right, it's coming out like at the end of the year.
Let's pace myself.
Yeah.
No, I totally went, and now I'm choking on it. All right, I ate that, and I was like, help.
So only because I'm friends with Kat on Goodreads, I believe she also gave it a 5. I don't know if she wrote like a full review, but I think she's a fan of Neal Shusterman.
Shusterman.
I've heard it certainly sounded that way. Yeah.
I've heard in 2 different interviews that saying that Shusterman both ways. So I don't understand. I don't know which one to use.
I think instinctually, I want to say Shusterman, but I think I've seen him on camera say Shusterman.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, fair enough.
Just all caps yes percentage, because that's what capital 5 would be.
There you go.
That's funny. On the margin said she gave it a 5 too. So overall,
on the holdout, hooray!
Yeah.
All right.
Tom sees the truth.
So I mean,
or maybe I'm not picking up what he's putting down.
I picked it up too fast. I just threw it. But I also gave Thunderhead a 5 too, because I tore through that so fast.
That's a surprise.
I tore through that one, and I actually thoroughly enjoyed the where he went in that book. So I'm sorry, I'm having to give you guys an amazing rating for the book that you guys are trying to avoid. But just go with Desirai on this. Just pace yourself. Just wait for the next one to get a release date. And then read it a little bit up to that point.
Like the Nevernight trilogy. We got to wait for that one too. Right?
Yeah, we haven't read the second one yet, have we?
That's like, no, we
and the Lifelike series, and see what I'm getting at here?
both the third Nevernight and stop, John. Both the third Nevernight and the second Lifelike are coming out this year. Like it's soonish.
This guy's busy.
Yeah, he's pumping them out, and then he has some big news that he's going to be mentioning on Monday, which I don't know what it is. So, I should have taken you up on that offer to get the book and told you to grab Watchmen, because I didn't grab that. That is the next thing that we're going to be reading. So we're going to do that. I guess, is it just a single graphic novel, Tom?
It is. Yes, okay. It is a single graphic novel called Watchmen by Alan Moore. And our books lately have, despite the poll system and such, have kind of segued together pretty nicely, in the sense that we had Mort, and then which dovetailed into this one, Scythe. Mm-hmm. And now we have Watchmen, and of course the theme of the Watchmen is who watches the Watchers.
Right.
Is this the cover you have?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
So with the funny.
We can do
that's
that.
the Doomsday Clock.
Right.
That's the Doomsday Clock.
All right. So that's next.
Yeah.
This is not the book, and this is a horrible way to show you guys what book we're reading, but that's the best I got at the moment.
No, the one, the cover I've seen, it has like a smiley face button with blood on it.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah.
Well, he was showing the Doomsday Clock.
Oh. It looked like a smiley face with blood on it, like it.
Was it? Oh, okay.
Like a bullet hole to the face.
Yeah, bullet hole to the.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, then that's the book.
Yeah.
It's hard to see.
It's glary.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Okay, because I mapped immediately the clock. Okay, yeah. Because that's part of this too. The
Spoilers.
Oh.
No, I get it. Jokes.
But this essentially starts.
There we go.
What?
That's the cover.
Yeah, that's it. That's the cover I remember. Yes.
Yeah, that one.
Oh, okay.
But this starts the whole line of comic stories that lead into DC's rebirth.
This is absolutely a monthly book club.
This is a monthly book club. There should be like a link to join us on the Goodreads if you want to jump in there. That way you can vote as we pick books each month. And we do have a Goodreads group, so we do this monthly.
And participate on the forums.
Yes. Try to participate on the forums.
With that being said, we can say closing arguments, right?
Yeah, I mean, we rated the book, so that's pretty much it. Just my little outro as a reminder. You can be a book club VIP and join us on camera by becoming a patron on the Patreon, patreon.com/Libri Labra. There's other perks. You get to, be in a rotation where you select books, and you get to see behind the scenes from my BookTube channel, and you get a custom bookmark and a whole bunch of other stuff. So if that's something that anybody's interested, go ahead and check out the Patreon. Other than that, you can come join us on the Goodreads group
and hang out with us every month.
Yep. So thank you both so much for being in the chat today.
It's good to have people in chat.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's awesome. It helps those little lulls and stuff when we can pull in more people's opinions.
And I can get yelled at more.
Yes, John got yelled at a lot.
Stop, John!
So, all right. Well, thanks again. Hope to see you guys again sometime soon. Have a great night, and bye.
Bye.